Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The last speaker of the day and of the conference is Zaha Hadid. As you know, Zaha and the practice have recently completed the ski jump in Innsbruck, and we're going to have the pleasure of seeing not only that project, but also a selection of some of the recent projects in the office. Please welcome Zaha Hadid.
Mohsen, thank you. It's always a pleasure being here. I realized today that I've known the AA for 30 years, and no matter what you do to the school in terms of repair, it still looks like the same mess I found when I went into these doors literally 30 years ago, which is quite a long time now. This is the animation of the ski jump, which I start with. This is a very short lecture. I will only talk about our current work. How come it finished so quickly?
You said it was short.
She's doing it again. The ski jump was a competition which we did 3 years ago. The same year, we won 2 other products, which I will also show. What happened with the ski jump was the incline of the jump had kind of, in terms of regulations, changed, and therefore it forced the people for the Olympic to change the whole structure, but also the intention was to, through adding a program at the top of the building, which is really a viewing platform and a restaurant, was to kind of really urbanize and make a kind of an event space out of the ski jump, and not only being a kind of a sport facility. Can I go back to the slides, please? I had promised Mohsen to redesign the podium, because the last time I came here, I've always hated it. I hated it for 2 reasons. First, I hate these buttons, and the other thing I hated was this mirror in front, which is gone apparently. You know, forever everybody saw their footsies, you know, playing with each other down there. You can nobody can have a fling in the front row. So it was kind of, so anyway, I hated it in the restaurant. Poor Rick Mather kind of heard me insult him for years. And Mohsen has become attached to it. It's like an antique. So, you know why it's burned? It's not because somebody smoked, it's because this stupid light falls off. Can I switch it off? No, it's too dark. It's okay. Anyway, it's a very strange idea to entertain people on a Saturday afternoon also. I said to myself, why would I do this to myself, coming on Saturday to give a lecture today, having been absent from the school for 3 years? There are others whom we know that Mohsen invites every semester, every term, but I haven't been here for a long time. I have dinner with Mohsen, but no lectures. I think he still believes I'm a bad influence on the AA population. 2, I would corrupt them somehow. And me and Mohsen started there at the same time, so the soft room was really soft then. They had this elongated, it's very fashionable now, Mohsen. You should resurrect these purple sausages which inhabited that room. The DRL actually can well inhabit that space. Seriously. It was kind of designed that people roll over each other. The blue buttons? Okay. Have you noticed that all your speakers have burnt arms after this? Cincinnati. So I will really just do a bombardment of very recent work, which I have not shown. I've not shown since I was here last. I'm not trying to rub this in, but it was just very recent work. I don't go through the old work. I just go through recent work. And I can, maybe at the end of this lecture, I can show the animation for Cincinnati. Cincinnati was a project which we also won 4 or 5 years ago for a contemporary art center in Cincinnati, Midwestern city, Of course, Cincinnati, they don't think of them as the Midwest, but they think as East. And it was really thought originally as a kind of series of nesting or aggregate series of spaces which can deal with ideas of contemporary art, but also because it's a borrowing museum, it's not a permanent collection. It has to deal with kind of really very large variety of spaces. The one thing which was interesting was kind of really in the downtown. Therefore, it's an area of retail and commercial kind of program. And by inserting the city consciously decided to invest or to give money to institutions to invest in the downtown by changing the kind of really mosaic of the downtown from a commercial activity to kind of cultural activity. Next to us is the kind of the concert hall. The one thing I'm not sure many of you know about Hustler magazine, that was where it was. And there are two interesting things. There was a laundrette, a laundry, Hustler, Larry Flint, and also a very famous hat shop, which was on the market for 10 years and nobody wanted to buy it. Of course, the minute they decided to put this contemporary art center there, the price went up and delayed everything by a long way. I thought they should really just make the hat shop and the museum, and it would be solve this problem, but nobody liked that idea. And this is one of the early drawings which was to do with really the kit of parts which would make this institution. Studies of the what we call the urban carpet, which is the one continuous concrete wall which rolls all the way from the top all the way to the ground and onto the street, and of that are a series of ramps which becomes the circulation throughout the museum and brings in light from both the top and the sides. The ground being, this is the steel stairs and ramps being inserted into that void, a relief model of that space. But the idea that the ground becomes a permanently kind of active space, and the citizens of Cincinnati or whoever passes by can use it. They don't have to pay till they enter the domain of the ramps. So that becomes another kind of a response to an urban space in the city. One thing which really struck me when I was there first is Procter & Gamble, of course, is the biggest kind of really institution there, because of kind of company. And they have a very large urban square in front of their buildings, which are have a strange nickname, which I won't go into right now. But there's a very large park, but the park is fenced. So it's a private public park. It's like London squares. You can't really go into it, and therefore it was very important that when they do a new institution, which is like this CSC, is to kind of really declare the ground floor as a public domain. And there are two programs, which is public, which is the ground, which is to do with events, and the top, which is called the Unmuseum, which is where they can commission art where for educational purposes people can, or children predominantly, can touch and work with. The panels just being hoisted up, and the early drawings of the museum. Some of the views from these cantilevered spaces. Another product which is well, we had worked for a very long time with this idea of kind of fluid lines and fluid spaces, and topography and landscape. And one of his early kind of really project was a pavilion in Weil on the other side of the Weil, on the other side of Vitra, and which was about really a crossroads of many different kind of spaces and also paths. And the idea that these paths can intersect like a kind of bundle which is kind of really squeezed at one end and is splinters out towards the end, and also starts at 0 and moves to 7-8 meters. And these spaces are for exhibitions, or and also it was for a landscape or a flower exhibition. So they start at 0 and they kind of flow up, and then also the path which gives you a view for the entire landscape is therefore raised like a kind of a lifted road. And in the interior there are kind of two volumes, let's say, which are recognizable, which is also to do with circulation, which is the staircase and the ramp. and then how the concrete wall meets the ground. And it was all about the kind of connection between landscape and concrete and movement. The platform for the Millennium Dome installation, which is the Mind Zone, and how these three ribbons also give you different kinds of adjacencies in terms of exhibits, but also in terms of the way you move through it, and how you can really, through these journeys, you can begin to look at the mind and translations of that, not the brain, but the mind. And this idea of kind of really land art and landscape was also heightened in a project we did for Strasbourg for the car park. 5,000 studies of how many lines could fit a car park. So this was the built parking. Originally, the place was supposed to be not obviously not curved, but the idea was to kind of really have two forms of distortion. One which is the distortion of the line, one which is the distortion of the actual plate, and also that the plate is the tarmac plate is also slightly lifted. And there are basically two materials, a tarmac tarmac and concrete. And the concrete forms one side a shadow on the tarmac, and the other one is the roof for the tram station. And the lines are consistent with the lines on the ceiling and the lines on the floor. The lines which become also in the dark the lighting poles for the field. Rome, which was another museum we did 3.5 years ago, which was a very large site in Via Guidarreni in Rome, which is like near Villa Flaminia. And the idea was to, through negotiation between the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Defense gave up this territory, which was a barracks, to the Ministry of Culture, and therefore declaring the site a kind of, and the whole area around there, kind of cultural kind of event spaces and museums. So these are certain views of Rome, and maybe you can show the animation. It's a very kind of fast animation. Of course, I say this all the time to the people in the office, and they insist it's not fast. So this is going around, and as you under the building, one of the space dives down, and there are a series of what we call streams, and there are major streams and minor streams, and major streams are all the galleries, and the minor streams are like bridges which connect all these buildings together. With the ribs holding sometimes these walls, dizzy out of existence. Just for the record, I think the first animation was better, Gail, in case you do this again. So there's kind of a series of models which shows, also in the original version, the top part was the theater, and these are all these different spaces which are all museum spaces. So the existing building, one of the existing buildings remains. The majority of the barracks is really demolished. So these are all the contemporary art spaces, and the idea to kind of really design a field, and the field is made of a series of buildings, which is no longer about an object building, but it's about a field of many buildings, which is like the library. This is the show we did last year in one of the barrack spaces, to resemble the museum. And so the library, the architecture museum, experimental galleries, and so on. And they all are part of the field. These are some of the circulation and staircases. Between all these kind of crevices, there's these kind of giants along very kind of extruded spaces. The exhibit last year in Rome. And then we did a series of competitions for different museums, like the Royal Palace Collection in Madrid, and Sofia, also in Madrid, which is about a series of kind of really parts which are intercrossing each other, but they are separated by a series of voids, and meaning each program is separated. North London Bridge, which connects North London University of Holloway Road, and the other one is this bridge in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi. And this idea of the structure being so kind of really colossal that you can almost use it as space. We'll come to that in another project. The museum in Graz, which is about kind of a tectonic space, but it's also topography on the tray. So these are very large plates which hover over the street and above the space, which kind of have like mushroom-like legs with the topography as part of the interior. The other topography project, which is a series of valleys, let's say, which is a library in Montreal. The first of the BMW competitions for the delivery center, which is like a mountain and also another valley which becomes the exhibition space. Rib structure with a kind of like a smart skin, like a mosaic. The hotel in Guadalajara center. Museum in Denmark. This would be on site also. So in the Salerno ferry terminal. Another project in Barcelona, which we also did last year, which will also be going ahead, is this very large kind of urban terrain, which has a cineplex, and it's next to the museum and the theater by Monet and the other building by Bofill. And this is like a 2.5 block project where the idea that the ground becomes an extension of the urban landscape and also a plaza, and all these kind of lines become a series of moving where terraces or seating, and underneath are these plays of 20 cinemas. The master plan for Singapore, which is about the idea of kind of really a soft grid, and how this grid kind of begins to connect the two sides of this very large urban, this park which exists, and the idea of the project is a kind of another layer of a kind of really terrain which rests on the existing landscape, and through it is a division of this kind of series of blocks which are no longer about a kind of a grid of a series of towers, but it's about maybe some of these institutions which are all to do with kind of technology, biomedic research. We're going to inhabit many of these kind of territories or terrain instead of being in one single building. This idea of really occupying, inhabiting structure is, I think, mostly research in the project for Wolfsburg. And the idea that this series of what we call the dropped voids become not only a program which is to do with maybe entries, theaters, and the landscape, like all these kind of cones, but they also become the structure for this building. Maybe I can have the animation for this as well, please. We used to very religiously work with only OV Arabs before on every project, and we had many fights with many clients because we insisted on working with them. But we were liberated a few years ago from this obsession, and therefore now we have we can choose quite a few of the engineers. One of them is here, Hanif Kara, who is the engineer on this project. I'm not sure how he's doing, frankly. But Suffering, most probably. Hanif, are you all right? He's not here. He's fine. He said that in public, so he can't, cannot complain. So this waffle slab, which is then we drop voids, and which become all the entries and restaurant, and it means that the field on the ground becomes perpetually animated by these public programs, and the steel is the roof is a steel roof, and the interstitial place becomes really the platform for all the exhibits of the Science Center. Can I go back to the slides in a minute, please? And one of these cones has the double cone, which means that the steel roof and the concrete cone kind of go all the way with a kind of light all the way to the ground or to the basement. It's not, I don't like it, I mean. The flyover is nonsense. It's not. When they do a good animation, I'll show it. They haven't so. Yet. It's another Speedy Gonzales flyover, fly-through. So these are become also part of the lighting. This is an early version of the plan, which shows that we had another bridge which went into the building, and in a very complicated way went out again. The theater. And all this, this part is like a kind of a, you can see it somewhere, it's like a dropped, like a methane, but like a kind of a belly hanging below the main platform. Some of the interior stays of the models. These are kind of all the formwork of this connection between the cone and the platform. The double cone, and therefore this is the shuttering for one of the cones. The formwork for all the kind of underside of the waffle slab. The idea of the cone also, we use it for an exhibition in also Wolfsburg, and this is a study for retail space. The Pet Shop Boys concert, which is, so there was different kinds of performance. I tell you, it was kind of almost like a ski jump for the dancers. They almost rolled down there. The dance for Frédéric Flamand, which was shown here a month ago, which was using some of the material which was really researched and done for the dome, which is this kind of a honeycomb resin bridges, which are very light and very stiff, and therefore they can move it around like a landscape. And this idea of topography that we use for the furniture. Another study of the furniture for the show in Wolfsburg. The Guggenheim in Japan, Tokyo, which was this kind of like a firework pulled, extruded up, and then it gives you one very long space. Patrick, don't you chat? Very long space. Sorry, Melissa. And this has one like long table, which gives you, it puts all the program here, but also gives you very long viewing. And the idea is contemporary Guggenheims are very like 70,000 square feet, a very simple space which gives you maximum flexibility for a very large shows, whether it's a motorbike or Armani or whatever. And it's basically like a container. And the idea of the skin was like they call a smart skin, which gives you the possibility to kind of really use very different materials, solar energy panels, glazing, ceramic tiles, and so, but it's done in one continuous surface. It's near a monorail, so this is the idea was also to have a very large screen for installations which could be indoor and outdoor. The train station in Florence. some of the interior spaces. Another museum in Munich for a very large collection. The idea that the internal space is like a canyon that splits the museum in two parts, but it allows visitors to kind of enjoy this connection between a very large museum, which has just been finished, and the main street. And there's a commission which we got it last year for the BMW central building in Leipzig. And the idea is to kind of form, not to do only the landscape, the idea of the landscape begins a series of kind of flowing fields which will go in between the three factory buildings which are already on site, which is this one is the body white paint shop and assembly. And the idea that all the energies and all the resources and all the workers, blue collar workers, white collar workers, will also flow, and the cars between these spaces. And the idea that as an ensemble, the landscape and the buildings make one cohesive sense. Study of the model with these two kind of really wings or arms which kind of interlock, forming these two large office spaces. The structure is a space frame. This is kind of a playground-like office space, which is very large. It's almost 40,000 square meters of production, and not production, but management, engineering, designers, and workers in one space. Some of these interiors, this is a study of the skin on of the neighboring buildings. What we call the blade, which sticks out beyond the boundary of the project. Some of the interior views with the kind of this terraces, which becomes also office spaces. I'll go back. Can I have the animation for the three animations for the BMW project? I must say this DVD is one of the dumbest things I've seen in my life. Whoever thought of it. So this shows kind of the original idea of these kind of lines, which become also the very large car park, and what becomes part of the landscape, part of the field. And the car park also has permanently painted on it cars, so it's kind of luminous at night, showing the circulation, the lines which flow between all the interior and also all the factory buildings. So the idea that the cars can move out from the body white to the paint shop, and then they are stored here, and then they move out again to the assembly. The interiors of the playground, which can make kind of different kind of formulations, showing how these groups could actually work in different ways. What? Are you saying something intelligent, Patrick, or as usual, uttering nonsense? The cars which are, this is another Stefan job. He's the one who made 5,000 lines on the car park in Strasbourg, and he repeated here. Patrick is, of course, a lead designer on this project, and also on Rome, and on many projects. Christos, they are most of them AA graduates, not Patrick, but Christos is also working on Wolfsburg. So this is the interior. Yeah, it's kind of bad quality, isn't it, Patrick? Yeah. But you are in charge, aren't you? Now, because it's been hashed up so many times. So you see also the cars moving between all the different buildings. Can you go back to the slides, please? This is when you run against walls and hit every person you come across. and you run around like a nutcase. And wait till the inherent logic in this animation I want to show. Since it's done by one of your guys, Morrison. Gay people. So and they cross the bridge, but no, they tumble down the terrace, not quite deciding. Okay. Can I go to the slides, please? So this is a project we did a long time ago for a stadium in Abu Dhabi, which was just a study to the ski jump and the final project. So this was there was a competition which we almost did many years ago on the Bergizel roof. There was supposed to be a study for a problem for a roofing of this all. This is obviously the all ski jump. I wanted to show apparently it was a very nice film on the demolition of the all ski jump, but I don't have it. Kind of competition studies. Studies of how this kind of idea of the fluid line becomes kind of wrapping, and also this is the new incline of the jumpers, and this is how it begins to kind of round like a collar around this public room. The all ski jump only had a place where you can jump, and I think it had no elevator. And the idea that you build a new lift, which is also the mixture of different materials, a kind of a concrete elevator shaft and structure compared to the steel frame on the top. So this is kind of seeing it against the Tyrolean mountains. You can see it from the motorway. Studies of how the back is and how it protrudes up to really, and this is part of a stairs which allows the jumpers to kind of really leap onto the place where they kind of can roll over. So there's just a series of views around it from a distance. And the studies of the structure. So this is then we got rid of all the columns here, and this became a kind of a girder. So there's no columns below this ramp. Showing the girder and showing the steel structure which is attached to the concrete tower on site. And so there is a kind of sense of lightness as you approach it, and it looks as if it's like almost like a kind of cobra looking out at the landscape. So in the original competition, there was an intention to actually also have us do all the ancillary building, but that never happened. Someone else did them. And there's a kind of a tram, like a tram, which is here, which brings in all the visitors and also the guys who jump, or the girls who jump back into the place here. Then they can go up and they leap here to roll off. And that was for me one of the most interesting things, is seeing it completely, is to see them. And this is also you can jump summer and winter. And it's a kind of Teflon ramp, and the constitution of the main field, I'm not sure, it's made of like many mattresses which are moisted to allow to become almost like snow. So the idea they can practice the whole year round. What is not known to the world is that this is the largest cemetery in the vicinity. So if you know, if you don't do well, you end up definitely there. So they are extremely precise. And we watched them train, and one of the older champions told me that the only reason it looked really so easy is because these were professionals, but they were very young, and of course when you see them jumping, you only see them against the sky, so you don't understand that they are minute. that kind of featherweight thing makes it possible for them to actually land. And you don't see them for a while. If you're down there, they leap off and they disappear for a minute and then they come up again. And that was really amazing to watch close by. The view, I think it was much nicer without the glazing. The platform staying out. The views from the space is really amazing. Of course, one of these situations where there was no other thing which you can, for the public to go to before to see out the whole city and also all the mountains. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Maybe we have enough time for a few questions. One thing that, to conclude with the theme of sport and architecture, I mean, this is such a beautiful project, but I want to, without putting you on the spot, just go back like to projects like the Hong Kong. You remember when you were doing those drawings and you were always talking about tick-ticks and tac-tacs and whatever it was, those elements on the drawing in some way that are not specific, they're not part of the construction, but they are, in many ways, they still signify
I don't say
something.
Anymore is because the word changed.
The world changed.
The world
changed. But then you sort of go to the car park project and you see the way that the whole question of the lines, for example, in terms of the organization of event with parking. And then you look at Rome and the movement and the structure. It seems to me that there is, without wanting to kind of force sport into the whole practice of Zaha Hadid architects, that there is something about the way that, for example, if we start thinking about the manner in which basketball courts or tennis courts and so on, the demarcation of the line and the relationship between the line and the structuring of a game, the way things are played.
I mean, I don't know whether you remember that drawing which I did more than 20 years ago for the Irish house, which caused a lot of havoc in their head because I changed the lines on the tennis court. I mean, anyway, and that was maybe the beginning of my exciting career. It was an exhibition here, and that was '79, and I think it was Alvin or Mike Gold who was standing behind these two American guys saying, "Oh my God, this guy has balls," about my drawings. And so, but it freaked everybody out because and I said it was not about with the game itself, but it was about, I said that in drawing you can maybe register some energies which take place, which are not necessarily always architectural, but it's to do with the space, with spatial. So what was your point again? That you have to run around all these buildings.
The point is that there are certain elements that demarcate the kinds of action that are not really part of the description of the physical space, but really they're more to do with surfaces and those conditions of the surface.
But I think what the major change was that actually these things became the project. I mean,
which things?
Your tic-tics. The tic-tics.
In what way?
I mean, they were no longer just kind of some sort of. They were like markings before, but I think they became more part of the project. In the same way, like in the peak, the landscape was drawn as a backdrop for the peak, but eventually became the project.
And when you were doing the ski jump in Innsbruck, did you have to really study the whole sport side of things? I mean, to actually have an understanding of how it worked, or
right.
is that something that's prescribed, very fixed, so you have to?
No, I mean, I think you can understand a bit, but I don't think it. I mean, it was an opportunity because the incline changed. That one is possible now, and also did not have a program that you can combine the fluidity of the line of the incline to the actual object. So it's just combining these two things. But I can't say that I went into kind of some sort of deep research into ski jumping.
And how about the question of the way that the whole relationship to the body with the ski jump or with the other projects? I mean, do you think that your attitude towards the movement of the body in space has
Well,
changed?
I mean, I think originally there was a lot of discussion about movement and how you not view these things, how you would feel in these spaces, and therefore came these, 2,000 projections into how you feel if you are lying on the floor, if you're on the ceiling, if you're, and the idea is, the space makes you hallucinate a bit.
No,
So it was not, all these things are kind of taken in a way for granted now, as opposed to going through that whole thing again and how you would feel. But of course, I mean, the thing with the ski jump was about how, I could never put myself in their place and see how they would be like, because I would never know. And we didn't have, ski jumping experts. Maybe the team did. I certainly did not.
And how do you feel about the drawings that you used to do compared to these fly-throughs that you always complain about?
I really still prefer the drawings, personally. I think flyovers, they could be really, if they are extremely well done, they are very effective. But they're not very well done.
Because with the drawings, you're able to say something about the dynamics of the relationship, and with the fly-throughs, it is a kind of form of naturalization that it's never precise in some way. So this.
No, I think it's in a way it's more precise. I mean, the flyovers are more precise than.
They're not. I mean, they're naturalized in some way. So you see it as it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. It has no other component which is maybe experimental as you would do it. There's no added quality.
Maybe somebody else will ask a question.
They're tired.
Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock.
Well, exactly. I mean, precisely. They should be all going out shopping or having a good time instead of sitting.
Somebody is hesitating to raise their hand back there. Is that right?
No, I think it's kaput. It's over. You're trying very hard, Marcel.
I know I am. Look at me.
It's not happening. Thank you.
Is that for you?
Hello.
All the claps were for you to ask.
Well, just to end with this.
The microphone.
Hello.
Yes,
oh,
it's
hello.
on.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Well, just to end with this conference, today's conference on sport, I've got a question for Zaha. Would you come with me for a round in Hyde Park sometime?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank all the speakers. Can I once again thank Katerina and Joel and all the other people who made this thing possible, and all of you for being here. Thank you. Bye-bye.